When God is about to move in your life, he often begins with a whisper. It's not thunder you'll hear, not lightning striking across the sky, but a quiet stirring deep in your spirit. It's that unshakable sense that something is about to change. You can't explain it, you can't prove it, but you can feel it in your bones. That, my friend, is the sign that your miracle is near. Many people miss it because they are waiting for something loud, something dramatic. But God often speaks through the stillness, through the calm, before the breakthrough. He doesn't need to shout to get your attention. He just needs your heart to be still enough to hear his direction. There are moments in life when everything feels delayed, when your prayers seem to echo back in silence, when every door you knock on refuses to open, you start to wonder if God has forgotten you. But it's in those very moments when everything looks quiet, when nothing seems to be happening, that heaven is actually working in your favor. When it feels like God is silent, that's not rejection, that's preparation. The silence before the miracle is often the greatest sign that your blessing is about to arrive. God is never late. His timing is perfect. And when he begins to align everything in your life, it may not look like progress at first. It may look like loss, separation, or delay. But those are the signs that he is setting the stage for something greater. You see, when God is about to perform a miracle, he doesn't just change your situation. He changes you first. He starts by removing what can't go with you to the next level. Sometimes he'll pull certain people out of your life. Sometimes he'll close doors you thought were meant for you. And sometimes he'll strip away comfort so you learn to depend on faith alone. If you're walking through a season where things are being taken away, don't panic. That's not the end of your story. That's the pruning before the fruit. When God removes something, it's always to make room for something better. Your miracle is never lost. It's being rearranged. So when you see doors closing, when you see relationships ending, when the path ahead seems blocked, don't curse the season. Recognize the sign. God is not punishing you. He's positioning you. He's redirecting your steps toward what he has already prepared. The detour is divine. What looks like delay is direction. And what looks like disappointment is often the disguise of deliverance. Many give up right before the moment when everything is about to shift. They stop believing when things feel hardest. But that's when the miracle is closest. The darkest hour always comes before the dawn. Sometimes the sign that your miracle is near is when you feel like you can't take one more step. When you've prayed until your words feel empty and you've cried until there are no more tears. That's when God whispers, "Hold on, I am not finished yet." When you've reached the end of your strength, that's when his power begins. God allows the breaking before the blessing, because he wants you to know the miracle was never by your strength, but by his will. You were never meant to carry it all on your own. When your hands are empty, that's when God can finally fill them. There's a moment before every miracle when your faith will be tested. God will ask you to trust him without proof, to believe without evidence. He will let the situation look impossible so that when the breakthrough comes, you will know without a doubt it was him. That impossible season you're in right now is the birthplace of your miracle. The waiting, the silence, the tears, the unanswered questions. None of it is wasted. God is using every piece of your pain to write a story that will glorify him. The miracle doesn't start when you see the result. It starts when you refuse to give up. When God sends you this sign, you will feel a holy unrest in your spirit. You'll know something is shifting. You'll no longer be comfortable where you are. You'll wake up with a strange mix of peace and urgency. Peace because you know God is in control. Urgency because you sense he's calling you higher. That's the sign. It's not fear. It's faith beginning to awaken. God is telling you, prepare yourself. The season is about to change. And when you sense that, don't fight it. Don't run from it. Move with it. The same God who stirred that feeling inside you will guide you through what comes next. When your miracle is near, you'll also notice that life begins to separate you from what once distracted you. Old habits lose their taste. Old conversations feel empty. God will begin to close your appetite for what doesn't align with your destiny. You won't fit where you used to. People may not understand it. They may say you've changed. And that's true because when God is preparing you for something big, he changes your spirit before he changes your surroundings. That inner transformation is one of the greatest signs that your breakthrough is around the corner. Sometimes the sign comes as a storm. God will shake everything around you, not to destroy you, but to rebuild your foundation. The storm is not against you, it's working for you. Every great move of God begins with a storm that clears the path. When he allows chaos to hit your life, he's clearing away what's been blocking your blessing. Don't fear the wind. It's carrying your miracle closer. Don't run from the rain. It's watering the seeds you planted in faith. If you can stand firm in the storm, you'll see the sun rise over your victory. Another sign that your miracle is near is when your faith starts to grow in the middle of what doesn't make sense. You stop needing to understand everything, and instead you start trusting God in everything. That's when you know transformation has begun. When you can praise Him in the waiting. When you can thank Him even when you don't see results. When you can rest knowing He's working behind the scenes. That's when heaven is aligning your breakthrough. God blesses those who trust Him when they can't trace Him. Your faith becomes the signal that attracts your miracle. There will also be moments when you'll feel a deep conviction to let go of something that once felt secure. Maybe it's a job, a plan, or a person. You won't even understand why you feel that pull, but you'll know deep inside that it's time to release it. That's not random. That's divine alignment. When God is about to bless you, He calls you to make room. He can't pour new blessings into hands still clinging to the old. Letting go isn't losing, it's trusting. And when you let go, you create space for what's truly meant for you. Your miracle will not always arrive in the way you expect. It might not come through the person you thought would help you. It might not happen on the timeline you imagined. But when it comes, it will come in a way that leaves no question that it was God. The miracle will not just bless you, it will change you. It will humble you. It will strengthen your faith and remind you that all along God was faithful. When you look back, you'll see that every delay, every heartbreak, every setback was part of the divine setup. God is never in a hurry, but He is always on time. When you feel like you've been waiting too long, remember this. Waiting is never wasted when your faith is growing. God uses the waiting season to prepare your heart for what He's about to deliver. The sign that your miracle is near is often a shift in your spirit before a change in your circumstances. You'll feel a renewal of hope, a quiet confidence that rises from within, even if nothing around you has changed yet. That's not wishful thinking. That's divine assurance. When God is close to sending your miracle, you'll also begin to see small confirmations, subtle signs that remind you He's near, a word you needed to hear at the right moment, a door that opens unexpectedly, a peace that covers you even in chaos. These are not coincidences. They are heavenly fingerprints reminding you that your story is still being written. Each sign is a reminder that you're not forgotten, that your prayers were heard, and that the hand of God is already at work. But remember, every miracle comes with a test. God will ask you to trust Him when it seems most unreasonable. He will lead you to the edge of what you can control, and then He will ask you to step out in faith. He does this not to scare you, but to strengthen you. Faith without testing is faith unproven. The sign that your miracle is near is when your trust in God outweighs your fear of failure. That's when heaven says, "Now is the time." You may also notice that as your miracle approaches, opposition increases. The enemy tries to distract, discourage, and divide. You'll face people who question your faith, situations that test your patience, and moments that tempt you to quit. But don't be dismayed. Opposition is often confirmation that you're close to breakthrough. The greater the resistance, the closer the release. When you see pressure rising, know that you're being refined, not rejected. Diamonds are only made under intense pressure. Your miracle is being formed in the same way. There will come a moment when God asks you to do something bold, something beyond your comfort zone. It might be forgiving someone who hurt you. It might be giving when you feel you have nothing left. It might be stepping into a place that scares you. That obedience will be the key that unlocks your miracle. God always rewards obedience. When you act in faith, even when you don't understand, you activate the supernatural in your life. Faith without action is empty. But faith that moves brings heaven's power to earth. And then right before your miracle arrives, there will be peace. It won't make sense. The storm may still be raging, but your heart will be calm. That's the greatest sign of all. That peace is God's signature. It means the battle has already been won in the unseen. You'll feel it, a quiet certainty that no matter what happens next, you are safe in God's hands. That peace is the final sign before the blessing. When you feel that unexplainable calm, lift your head high because your miracle is already on its way. Hold on to that moment. Protect it. Don't let doubt steal it. God has been preparing you, shaping you, molding you for this exact moment. Every tear you've shed was watering the ground for your miracle. Every sleepless night was laying the foundation for your victory. Every prayer you thought went unanswered was stored in heaven, waiting for the appointed time. And that time is near. When God sends you this sign, when you feel the stirring, the peace, the urgency, the separation, don't resist it. Welcome it. Prepare your heart. Keep walking in faith. Speak life over your situation. Thank Him in advance for what's already on the way. Because the God who started this journey with you has not abandoned you. The God who saw your pain has also written your promise. The God who tested your patience is now ready to reward your perseverance. Stay faithful. Stay alert. The miracle you've been waiting for is closer than it's ever been, and when it comes, it will not just meet your expectations, it will exceed them. It will remind you that nothing is too hard for God. It will prove that every closed door, every delay, every heartbreak was working together for your good. The same God who saw you at your lowest is the one preparing to lift you to your highest. So when you sense that sign, when your spirit feels the shift, stand firm in faith. Your miracle is near and the hand of God is already moving in your favor. When God is about to release a miracle into your life, He first brings your heart into alignment with His will. You may notice an inner shift. Your desires begin to change. Your priorities start to rearrange. What once mattered so much begins to lose its grip. You start yearning for peace more than applause, purpose more than comfort, truth more than convenience. That transformation is not accidental. It's divine preparation. God cannot pour His blessings into a heart cluttered with distractions. So He begins to cleanse you from within, removing anything that could hinder the flow of His favor. He simplifies your focus, purifies your intentions, and teaches you to value what truly lasts. The purification is painful, but it's holy. And that's when the signs begin to appear. The closer your miracle gets, the quieter God becomes. Not because He's far away, but because He's already spoken what you needed to hear. Now He's waiting for you to walk by faith. Many mistake silence for absence, but silence is often the sound of divine strategy unfolding. When you can't hear God, it's not that He's gone, it's that He's working. Seeds grow in silence. Miracles manifest in mystery. You might not see the roots, but they're spreading deep beneath the surface, anchoring your blessing so it cannot be shaken when it finally rises. If you can trust God in the silence, you are ready for the sound of breakthrough. Another sign that your miracle is near is when everything familiar starts to shift. God will pull you out of routines that no longer serve your purpose. He will make certain places uncomfortable and certain conversations meaningless. That's not confusion, it's direction. You are being called out of the ordinary because what's coming is extraordinary. When you begin to feel like you don't fit where you used to belong, it's because you're being prepared for where you're meant to go. Don't fight the change. The discomfort is the signal that destiny is approaching. When God prepares to bless you, He often introduces divine pressure. It's that weight that pushes you to pray harder, to think deeper, to rise higher. You may feel stretched, but that stretching is spiritual growth. You cannot reach the next level of your life with the same strength that carried you this far. God allows the tension so you can develop the endurance to handle what's coming. Many want the miracle, but not the molding. But God's miracles are never random. They are built on readiness. If you are under pressure right now, it's because heaven is expanding your capacity for what is about to be poured into your life. Sometimes the sign that your miracle is near comes through divine isolation. God will pull you away from the crowd so you can hear His voice clearly. He will hide you in a season where no one seems to notice your worth. Not because you are forgotten, but because you are being refined. Diamonds are formed in hidden places. Oil is pressed in secret. Greatness grows in obscurity. When God hides you, He's not withholding your purpose. He's protecting it. The miracle cannot manifest in noise. It needs the quiet soil of solitude to grow. So if you feel overlooked, remember you are being preserved for a greater unveiling. You'll also notice that God starts to give you signs through divine timing. Small things begin to align. A person you meet by chance gives you the exact words you needed. A situation you thought was over suddenly opens again. You start to feel a rhythm, a pattern that can't be explained by logic. That's not coincidence. That's providence. God is synchronizing your steps with His plan. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment was calculated to bring you to the perfect moment. Your miracle doesn't come early or late. It comes when you are ready. And when everything around you is prepared to receive it, another sign appears in your spirit. You begin to feel a boldness rising. Fear starts to lose its grip. You no longer speak from worry, but from faith. You no longer look at obstacles as threats, but as opportunities. That inner courage is not self-made, it's God-given. He breathes confidence into your soul before He reveals the miracle to your eyes. Faith is the voice that calls things into being before they exist. When you begin to speak what you believe instead of what you see, heaven starts to move. Every word of faith becomes a seed, and those seeds summon the miracle into your reality. When God is near, your perspective changes. You stop asking why me and start saying who's me. You stop seeing challenges as punishment and start seeing them as purpose. You begin to understand that every obstacle was designed to teach you obedience. Every trial carried a lesson of trust. The greatest miracles are not born out of ease, but out of surrender. When your heart bows before God, your circumstances begin to rise in favor. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over, releasing control, and allowing divine wisdom to guide the outcome. Another powerful sign is when your spirit becomes sensitive to gratitude. You start thanking God not just for what He's done, but for what He's about to do. Gratitude in the waiting season is one of the strongest acts of faith. When you can thank God in advance, you prove that your belief outweighs your doubt. Gratitude unlocks blessings because it shifts your energy from lack to abundance. When you stop complaining and start praising, heaven takes notice. God draws near to the heart that is thankful, and in that nearness miracles multiply. You may also feel an increase in spiritual warfare right before your miracle breaks through. The resistance intensifies because the enemy senses what's coming. The battle gets harder not because you're weak, but because you're close. The enemy fights hardest when the blessing is nearest. Don't let the pressure make you retreat. Stand your ground in faith. Every time you refuse to give in to fear, you declare victory over your circumstances. God never allows opposition without purpose. What looks like an attack is actually evidence that you're on the right path. When your miracle is approaching, your spirit will crave stillness. You'll find yourself wanting to disconnect from noise, to rest in God's presence, to find peace that the world can't offer. That's because the closer you get to breakthrough, the less you'll need validation from others. You'll find that peace itself becomes your proof. You won't need to chase signs anymore because you'll realize that God has already placed His confirmation inside you. The presence of peace in the middle of uncertainty is one of the clearest signs that God's hand is upon your life. Another divine sign is when your prayers begin to change in tone. You no longer plead, you declare. You no longer pray from desperation, but from authority. You speak with the assurance of someone who knows that what they ask for is already being delivered. God responds to faith-filled prayers because they echo His will. When your words align with His promises, they carry creative power. So speak over your life as one who believes that God is already at work. Speak victory over fear, abundance over lack, healing over pain, clarity over confusion. Your words are not empty. They are spiritual instruments shaping the reality God intends for you. When you are near your miracle, you may also experience divine tests of humility. God will check your heart before He elevates your life. He will see how you handle small opportunities before He releases greater ones. If you can stay faithful in little things, He knows He can trust you with more. Humility attracts the hand of God because it shows that your trust is not in your own strength but in His wisdom. Many lose their blessing because they seek the miracle more than the maker. But when you seek the giver above the gift, the blessings chase you. Sometimes the greatest sign that your miracle is close is when you are led to forgive what once broke you. Forgiveness frees your spirit and clears the spiritual pathway for blessings to flow. Holding on to bitterness is like locking the door to your own breakthrough. When you release resentment, you release divine favor. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's power. It says, I will not let the pain of yesterday block the promise of tomorrow. And when you forgive, you align yourself with the flow of God's mercy. And in that mercy, miracles manifest naturally. As you approach the threshold of your miracle, you will sense divine confirmation through peace, purpose, and power. Peace to know you're not alone. Purpose to understand why you endured. Power to move forward with renewed strength. God's timing is perfect, and His signs are never random. He speaks through circumstances, through intuition, through people, through the stillness of your own heart. But to see these signs clearly, you must keep your spirit calm, your heart pure, and your faith unwavering. Your miracle may not come through thunder and lightning, but it will come through quiet obedience and persistent faith. It will appear when you least expect it, but most need it. The same God who carried you through every storm will not leave you in the middle of your journey. Every closed door, every delay, every disappointment was only setting the stage for a divine unveiling. So when you sense that shift in your spirit, when peace replaces panic, when faith outweighs fear, when gratitude rises in your heart for no reason, that is the sign. Lift your eyes toward heaven and hold your ground. God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. The miracle you've been waiting for is not lost. It's moving closer with every moment you stay faithful. You may not see the evidence yet, but faith was never about sight. It was about trust. The unseen hand of God is moving mountains, rearranging circumstances, and aligning destiny. So keep walking, keep believing, keep expecting, because when God sends you this sign, the peace, the stirring, the divine timing, the sudden clarity, know this with absolute certainty. Your miracle is not only near, it is inevitable. And when it arrives, it will carry the fingerprints of God. and it will remind you that every tear, every prayer, every moment of waiting was never in vain. God has been preparing you all along for what He is now ready to release. When God is preparing to release a miracle into your life, the first thing He often does is expose what has been hidden. He shines His light on the things that need to be confronted. The fears you've buried, the doubts you've ignored, the habits you've excused. This exposure isn't punishment, it's purification. God cannot build your blessing on a weak foundation, so He strengthens your character before He strengthens your position. When God starts revealing uncomfortable truths, that's not a sign to retreat. It's a sign to repent, to realign, to rise higher. The cleansing of your heart is the clearing of your path. When the moment of divine breakthrough draws near, you'll notice that your old ways of coping stop working. The things that used to comfort you no longer bring peace. The distractions you once ran to lose their power. That's not frustration. That's transformation. God is separating you from false sources of strength so you can depend fully on Him. He removes the crutches so you can walk in faith. Every miracle requires the courage to stand on spiritual legs, not human ones. And when you no longer find satisfaction in what once satisfied you, then know that your spirit is maturing for the weight of the blessing to come. There's also a sacred sign that many overlook: divine unrest. You feel restless not because something is wrong, but because something is about to shift. Your spirit starts stirring with anticipation. You can't explain it, but you sense that change is near. This is not anxiety, it's revelation. God stirs your soul to prepare you for movement. He won't let you stay comfortable in places where His plan no longer resides. The discomfort you feel is not a warning of loss. It's the birth pain of a miracle. When your spirit starts to outgrow your surroundings, that's the whisper of destiny saying, it's time to move. Sometimes the sign that your miracle is near is hidden in divine delay. You prayed, you believed, you waited, and still nothing. But the pause is not denial, it's timing. God is orchestrating a blessing so perfectly that every detail must align. If you received it too early, it would overwhelm you too late, and you might have lost hope. But when it arrives in His timing, it will fit into your life with precision. The delay is not God's rejection. It's His perfection. It's His way of saying, what I'm preparing is greater than what you asked for. So when everything feels still, trust that heaven is building the foundation of your future. In silence. You'll also notice that when your miracle is close, your words start to carry new weight. God begins to anoint your speech. You'll speak things that come to pass. You'll declare peace and find calm. Speak provision and see doors open. Proclaim hope and feel your spirit lifted. This is not coincidence. It's the power of alignment. When your heart syncs with God's will, your words echo His authority. Miracles are often spoken before they are seen. So be careful what you say in your waiting season, because your tongue is a tool for creation. If you fill your atmosphere with doubt, you delay your blessing. But when you fill it with faith, you accelerate it. When your miracle is near, God will test your ability to stay faithful when you can't see progress. It's easy to trust when everything is working, but faith isn't proven in the light. It's proven in the dark. God will lead you through moments where you have no evidence except His promise. And if you can keep walking when you don't understand, you'll soon see what your obedience made possible. The strongest faith is not the one that demands answers, but the one that keeps believing without them. That's when God says, now I can release the miracle. Sometimes the sign that your breakthrough is close is when your prayers become simpler. You stop trying to convince God and start trusting Him. You stop pleading and start praising. You begin to rest in the assurance that He already knows what you need. This shift in your spirit is a mark of maturity. When you no longer measure God by your circumstances, but by His faithfulness, you've entered the posture of blessing. God responds to peace. He moves when you stop striving. When your heart says, I trust you even here, heaven begins to open. Another sign of approaching miracles is divine alignment of people and opportunities. Suddenly, you'll meet someone who holds a missing piece to your puzzle. A conversation will lead to clarity. A small door will open that leads to a bigger one. These are not random connections. They are divinely arranged intersections. God never works in isolation. He uses people, moments, and timing as instruments of destiny. Stay alert. The person you meet today could be the bridge to your answered prayer tomorrow. Every connection in God's plan has purpose. And when these alignments start happening, know that your miracle is moving closer. But there's another layer to this truth. Sometimes God's sign comes through separation. He will remove certain relationships, end certain opportunities, and even silence certain voices around you. This may hurt deeply, but understand this. Not everyone is meant to witness your miracle. Some are part of your journey, not your destination. God isolates you not to punish you, but to protect the purity of what he's about to do. The higher the calling, the smaller the circle. If you find yourself alone in this season, don't mistake solitude for abandonment. You are being guarded for greatness. When you begin to walk in obedience, even when you don't see results, that obedience itself becomes the sign. Each step of faith builds momentum in the unseen realm. God honors every moment you choose to believe rather than fear. And when the appointed time comes, everything that felt delayed will happen all at once. God moves suddenly. Years of waiting can shift in a single moment. The key is to remain consistent in faith while others lose hope. The miracle belongs to those who don't quit in the silence. When God is near, even the small things start to matter. The way you treat others, the way you think, the way you speak, it all begins to shift under divine guidance. God will test your heart in hidden ways before he reveals your miracle in public. If you can stay humble when unnoticed, grateful when under pressure, and kind when misunderstood, then you've passed the test of character. Miracles are not just about what you receive. They are about who you become through the process. God will not give you a blessing that your heart cannot sustain. Sometimes the sign comes in the form of an unexpected peace right after a great storm. You'll look around and realize that though nothing has visibly changed, your spirit feels calm. That calm is not ignorance, it's revelation. God gives peace before he gives proof. The peace that comes before the breakthrough is the assurance that what you prayed for is already settled in heaven. So don't let chaos around you convince you that God is absent. The storm often clears the space for the miracle to arrive. There will also be a moment when you sense that your perspective has shifted completely. You no longer question why things happen the way they did. Instead, you begin to see the divine wisdom in every twist of your path. You'll look back on the pain and realize it was purpose in disguise. You'll see that every delay was an act of mercy, every disappointment a redirection toward destiny. That clarity is one of the purest signs that your miracle is near. God always reveals understanding right before manifestation. And when that moment comes, when your heart is settled, your faith is anchored, and your spirit is alert, you will feel an inner certainty that cannot be explained. That assurance is not imagination. It's divine confirmation. God whispers to your soul, "Now you're ready." And when he says that, everything you've prayed for begins to align with precision. Doors open effortlessly. Opportunities flow naturally. What once felt impossible suddenly becomes inevitable. The blessing that once seemed far away now finds its way to you with divine speed. So when you start to feel that pull in your spirit, that divine stirring that tells you something great is near, don't doubt it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Trust it. That's God's signal. You're standing on holy ground on the edge of fulfillment. Every tear, every test, every prayer was leading you here. You've endured enough darkness to appreciate the dawn. And now heaven is about to unveil what it's been preparing all along. God's timing is never rushed, but it's always precise. When he moves, he does so with power and purpose. Your miracle is not coming by chance. It's coming by design. The signs have been there all along. The stirring in your soul, the silence that tested your faith, the peace that replaced panic, the courage that rose out of pain. Each one was a divine whisper saying, "Hold on, I am near." And when the appointed hour arrives, no force on earth can delay what God has declared. So lift your eyes. Stand firm, keep your faith alive. The same God who brought you this far is about to fulfill every promise spoken over your life. Your miracle is not distant. It's at the door. The signs are all around you and heaven is moving in your favor. Stay ready, stay faithful, and let your heart rejoice. Because when God sends you this sign, it means your miracle is not coming. It's already here. When God begins to move in your life, he does not whisper in confusion. He speaks through signs that stir your spirit, through moments that make your heart tremble with recognition. There comes a point when the veil of delay is lifted, and you sense deep within that something divine is about to unfold. You can't explain it, but you can feel it. The same hand that once seemed still now begins to shift everything around you. That stirring in your soul, that sudden clarity after a long season of silence, that divine peace in the middle of uncertainty. Those are not coincidences. Those are signs that your miracle is near. When God is about to release your breakthrough, he doesn't send comfort first. He sends a test. He sends a situation that forces you to trust him completely. He will let the storm rise higher so that your faith will stretch beyond its limits. He will remove the familiar ground beneath your feet so that you learn to walk by faith and not by sight. The closer you are to your miracle, the stronger the wind will blow. But don't let it frighten you. Every storm that rises is still under his command. Every delay still bows to his timing. Every obstacle that stands in your path is only setting the stage for his power to be revealed. The greatest battles come right before the greatest blessings. When everything seems to be falling apart, it is often because everything is actually falling into place according to God's design. When the road grows narrow and the light seems faint, that is when you must hold on tighter than ever before. Do not let the whispers of doubt convince you that you've been forgotten. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. You are being prepared for what you have been praying for. God never wastes pain. He uses it as the soil in which miracles grow. Every tear that has fallen has watered the ground of your future blessing. There comes a time when God will test your patience, your obedience, and your humility all at once. It will feel as though He is silent, but His silence is not absence. It is preparation. When the farmer plants a seed, he doesn't speak to it daily, but he never stops watching over it. In the same way, God watches over every prayer you've ever whispered, every step you've taken in faith, every act of kindness you've done in His name. He has seen your quiet endurance, your hidden sacrifices, and your long nights of unanswered questions. And when the appointed time comes, He will make everything beautiful. Not 1 second too early, not 1 moment too late. So if you are standing in that season where nothing seems to make sense, lift your head and know this. The darkness you're walking through is not the end, it's the threshold. God often hides the miracle behind moments of confusion, so that only faith can open the door. You may not see the way forward, but He does. You may feel like you've reached the end, but He is just beginning. Do not let fear define your next step. Let faith lead it. What God is preparing for you is greater than what you are praying for. When the sign appears, when you suddenly feel that stillness after the storm, when doors that once refused to open begin to move, when people who once opposed you begin to fade, when peace replaces panic and strength rises within you for no reason, that is when you know God has stepped into your situation. That is when you know the wait was worth it. God's signs are not written on the walls of the world. They are written on the walls of your heart. Listen to that voice inside that says, keep going. Don't quit. Trust me. That's not your imagination. That's your Creator speaking. There is power in trusting God when you don't understand Him. Faith does not mean seeing the whole path. It means stepping forward even when you only see 1 step at a time. The greatest victories come from those who refuse to surrender their faith in the middle of uncertainty. When you keep your trust anchored in God, you become unshakable. No storm can uproot a soul that is planted in His promises. So stand firm. Pray even when you don't feel strong. Believe even when you're tired. Speak hope even when fear whispers otherwise. Because God is not finished with you yet. He is the same God who turns dry valleys into rivers, who brings life out of barren places, who takes what is broken and uses it for glory. He will not leave you halfway through your journey. If He brought you this far, He intends to finish what He began. You may feel that your strength is gone, but remember, God's strength begins where yours ends. When you reach the edge of your ability, you've reached the place where His miracles begin. Let this truth sink deep into your heart. Every delay, every disappointment, and every detour has been leading you toward divine purpose. What you thought was rejection was actually redirection. What you thought was punishment was preparation. And what you thought was loss was simply God clearing the path for something greater. There is no such thing as wasted faith. Every prayer that went unanswered in your timing is about to be answered in His. So rise up in your spirit and declare to your heart that you will not let fear steal your faith. Refuse to give up when you are 1 step away from your blessing. God is nearer than you think. The sign you've been asking for may not come in thunder or lightning. It may come in the quiet assurance that your heart suddenly feels the peace that makes no sense, the courage that appears when you thought you had none left. When that happens, know this: God has already spoken your miracle into existence. Walk forward with courage. Let faith be your compass and prayer your constant companion. Lift your head high, not because the road is easy, but because you know who walks beside you. Trust that even in your waiting, something holy is happening. You may not see it yet, but heaven is moving on your behalf. And when that moment comes, when the sign is clear and the door opens, fall to your knees and give thanks. For it was not your strength that brought you here, but God's mercy, His faithfulness, and His perfect timing. Live every day with that awareness. Let your life be a living testimony that faith in God never fails, that patience in trials brings divine rewards, and that hope in His promises never ends in disappointment. Now is the time to rise with renewed purpose. Now is the moment to surrender every worry, every doubt, and every fear back to God. Let Him guide your steps, heal your heart, and shape your destiny. You are not meant to live in hesitation. You are meant to walk in divine confidence. Lift your eyes above the noise of the world and fix them on the One who never changes. Let your heart burn with trust. Let your spirit overflow with gratitude. And let your words reflect faith, not fear. Because when you begin to walk in that kind of faith, miracles follow you. Not because you chase them, but because God has already prepared them for those who believe. The sign you are waiting for is closer than you think. It may even be here already. Be still. Listen, believe. Your miracle is near, and the God who promised it is faithful to fulfill